Hello everybody, welcome to a brand new edition, well I say a brand new edition for 2012 of My Life on the Hill. And it's a fabulous day to do some filming. We were filming yesterday and there were hailstones coming down and rain and all sorts of horribleness down in the Rhondda. Whilst it's a pleasure being down there, the weather wasn't nice at all. But today it's been very clement for us. And we're surrounded by this euphoric bird song. Everything's just psyching itself up to start to breed in the spring. But what I'd like to show you is a few interesting things today. We're on our way down now to scoop up some sheep poo, and I'll make some lovely liquid manure to feed the veggie patch for right through the growing season, in fact. But I'm particularly keen to bring on my garlic because I want nice big juicy garlic, bigger than my mate Walton's garlic. And then I'm going to do some cultivating the veggie patch, and there's a whole bunch of green manure, some different type of green manure, some focaccia and some mustard that I sowed back in October, and I want to dig that in because really, you know, you need to think about digging your manure, green manure, in sort of 5 to 6 weeks before you need to be able to plant new different types of vegetables in the ground. And finally, if you remember, if you will have seen this, we did a feature from the Folly in Tales from Terry's allotments back in the summer of 2011, and I got old man Walton going down into the ladder, down into the reservoir to look at this sort of dilapidated state because nothing had been done to it for well over 50 years. And of course, having done that, it inspired me to renovate it and do it up. So we're going to go and look at that and check out and actually see if there's any water in there, see if the springs are running, because actually it's been very, very dry this winter as well as being mild, which is, you know, remarkably unusual. So anyway, without further ado, should we go and scoop some sheep poop. Right, I'm just going to grab the bits and bobs that we need. I'm going to take the horse pooper scooper down there. It seems like the ideal thing to scoop up a bit of scoop up a bit of sheep poo. Oh wow, look at that, fantastic. There you go, look. There's incredible things about being slightly untidy. There's a little toad sat inside the scoop. So he was trying to find a place to hide up. And it just goes to show how mild it is, because of course we're still at the end of January, where these guys do come out when it gets mild in February, March. But realistically, it's still very early. So that's one of the things. Well, I'm going to pick this up now, and I'm going to release it somewhere safe, probably under one of these great big piles of logs, because it can, you know, find some refuge under there. Feed the sheep, and I just wanted to show you some things before we go into the next door field. I think this is relatively interesting. We're in this wonderful sort of dip here, and these wonderful old mature apple trees, and it's very well protected from any of the prevailing conditions. So it's a really popular roost for lots of birds, not least of all pheasants. And the way you can see where a pheasant has been roosted, and it's fairly obvious, I suppose, it's because there's a whole bunch of little droppings underneath the branch that they've been roosted on, and they tend to be in a little ring, so almost like a fairy ring of bird droppings. I'll just show you down here. You can see this little circle of droppings. So you can lift your head up, and you can see exactly where that pheasant responsible for those droppings has spent the night. So I've collected my barrow of sheep poo, and sheep poo is really good. I mean, there are those that would not give horse poo a second thought if they can get hold of sheep manure. These are interesting. These are old onion sacks. You can get these from a greengrocer's. These have come from a supplier of mealworms, a company called Wiggly Wigglers that I used to be employed by several years ago. And I asked one of my colleagues or friends that works there now to send me these nets to make fishing nets out of, oddly, for an activity in the summer. So I've got a whole bunch of these You know, they don't cost anything at all. And I'm just going to fill these with this lovely nuggets of sheep poo. Look at that, fantastic, eh? That's a pure bundle of juicy nutrients. Off the back of that there'll be some serious foliage and some nuggety garlic, hopefully. Okay, we've wandered up to the top of the vegetable patch. I brought my bags of sheep poo up here. So quite literally I've just kind of tied them together purely so that I can get them back out again if I need to. And all I'm going to do is just kind of drop them in. That's all I need to do. Just pop them in there like that. And I end up with this fabulous concoction. It's like a witch's cauldron of wonderfully nitrogenous food. I'm not going to feed this now though. I mean, I won't be dipping into this now until March, something like that, when everything starts to grow more vigorously. I mean, really, at the moment, you know, certainly so far as the garlic's concerned, I'm just waiting for that to throw out its roots more. I don't want lots of foliage at the moment. I don't want to force the growth. So really, this is just going to be in here, you know, fermenting. And if I wanted to, every now and again, I can just give it a little pull like that. And essentially, over time, that sheep manure will just disintegrate into this lovely liquid fertilizer. Lovely. So that's brewing in there beautifully. I can just put the lid on. An old lid off a 40-gallon drum. Hey presto! All the ingredients are added. Simple as that. No problem at all. It definitely saves buying liquid plant food. The best of it is you know exactly where that's come from. You know, if you harvested the sheep poo yourself, especially if it's kind of up on a hill or something like that, you know there's nothing of any sort of chemically derivative in there. So it's you know, it's completely harmless stuff. It's wonderful. This is something that illustrates how warm the winter's been. There's a rhubarb coming through now. This is brand new growth. January isn't even over, and we've almost got rhubarb here that we could eat. I mean, we love our early season rhubarb. We don't do as much with it as we could, really, and we get so much of it. It seems particularly fond of chicken manure, and because there's a nice mix of carbon and nitrogen in these cleanings from the hen house, it works perfectly well. That's a good job, well done. So, I normally wouldn't trim off green manure, but it's the first time I've tried this focaccia and mustard mix this year, and the plants have grown absolutely enormous, again because of the mild winter that we've had. So I've trimmed it up, and it's kind of mushed it up really. It's quite nice. So when I dig it over in a minute, it will disintegrate back into the ground so much easier. And then this plot I'll probably put down to broad beans this year. And we'll see how it goes, you know, see what the end product's like off the back of using this particular type of green manure. It looks good stuff. I mean, I do like the idea of all this finery going back into the soil. So, fingers crossed. Well, I have to dig these top tiers because you might have noticed there are some enormous, wonderful, mature ash trees behind us. And I don't want to take those down or anything. But of course, all those little rootlets from those trees inundate this space every year. So even though I dig it every year, I'm still digging up tiny little rootlets, which I'll show you in a minute. All of which, of course, will be competing for nutrient and moisture, you know, with my veggies. See, these are the kind of things that I'm talking about. If I didn't dig the patch over, these little rootlets would be full right through the whole space. So I've got to kind of take them out every year, really. It doesn't really matter, I suppose. I mean, if you were inclined to dig, you'd kind of do it anyway. I tend not to dig the levels below me, just kind of fork them over lighter because they're not inundated with roots in the same way. the spring that fills this reservoir up isn't running. And actually, when I look inside, it's still absolutely bone dry. There's nothing in there at all. You can hear my echo, but can't see any water in there. Not a bit, not a thread. Because if I want water to water the vegetable patch, and somewhere which I almost certainly will do, is I'm going to put a line of guttering on the back end. I did put a couple of inlet pipes, well, an inlet pipe and an outlet pipe, on that bottom end over the filter, because there's this fabulous gravel filter on there. When I cleaned it out, I found all these wonderful little vole and wood mice skulls and things like that, and I kept those, and I've kind of glued them into Ferrero Rocher pots to show kids when I do workshops. But the guts of the job are done. I just need to get some water in there now in order to complete the project. But I'm pleased with the way it worked out anyway, so it's a good thing. Well, that's it from me. I hope you've enjoyed this episode of My Life on the Hill as much as I've enjoyed making it. As you can see, even though January is supposedly the coldest month of the year, there's still a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done. So, I'll see you next time.